What was your biggest takeaway?
I think Cohen. Cohen testified today that in a 2018 letter to the FEC, he said he did not think the Stormy Daniels payment amounted to campaign contributions or campaign expenses. And today on the stand, he walked that back and said, actually, in 2018, I knew full well that they were campaign contributions. And to me, that was really important because Michael Cohen has now made two links to Trump. He has said that Trump knew about the falsification in his prior testimony, and today he linked him to the campaign contributions violation. And that's the first time he has done that, and that is the only time that has come out. And despite what you think about Michael Cohen's credibility, when you take those two things together, I thought that was a really important moment.
Huge, important moment for Hugo, who covers this day in and day out and remembers all of those facts. But I just kept thinking about that jury today. Right, Laura Jarrett was reporting that those jurors, some of them were rubbing their eyes, appearing restless. How hard is it for them, right? This point that Hugo brings up, that's this hugely important point. Are they even getting it, amass the amount of just details and information and bickering and objecting that's happening in that courtroom?
You know, I feel a little bit like a broken record. I think many people, including myself, have said repeatedly there's diminishing returns if you keep on going at something that doesn't need that continued attention. And at some point, after you've made your point, you lose your jury. And you don't want to lose your jury. And on top of that, if you become combative and aggressive and you have issues with the judge and the court, that just makes matters worse. And there was one point in this, pardon me, not in the summation, but in the cross-examination, Blanche was asking a question about, about lying in the past, and then ultimately asked a question that sort of sank his entire cross-examination. You just got to let it go and move on. And that's the problem. They didn't do that. They were not efficient. They didn't hit their points and go to the next one.
They being Blanche, the defense.
They being Blanche. Absolutely.
Barb, the judge is trying to make this whole process as clean and fair as possible. He made the decision today that closing arguments would be after the long weekend, next Tuesday. What's your take, thinking about the jury, their fatigue, their ability to get influenced over a long weekend, or facts in their minds start to fade away over time?
Yes. So I think what the judge is trying to do is to make sure that the jury hears both closing arguments in close proximity to each other. So what he wants to avoid is having, for example, the prosecution close on Thursday. We have a day off Friday as well as Monday. And then it's not until next Tuesday that they hear the defense case, and then they begin deliberating 4 days after they heard the prosecution case, when they may have forgotten some of those details. And so I think that despite the fact that it might be less efficient than it could otherwise be, it might add an extra day at the back end. The thought is, let's put these two closing arguments together so that the jury is able to assess them both kind of all at the same time. And I think that's a good move. I also think it's a good move to get this long holiday weekend behind us so that the jury isn't trying to race to finish up in time for the long weekend. Sometimes you see that jury verdicts often come back on Fridays because they don't want to come back after the weekend. And so I think by saying at the outset, look, we're going to take the weekend off and then we're all coming back, the judge has made it clear what the game plan is going forward to be fair to both sides.
Hugo, I want to talk about language that we heard today, language around Trump's businesses, right? Like phrases like friends in high places, we're going to stay strong, or who's going down, right? Ideas that someone's going to get grossed up, meaning the lawyer will be paid more, or a salaried employee possibly getting a retainer, the idea not to use email or text messages or sending checks to a bodyguard, okay? None of the things I just laid out are how good, honest businesses operate. Yet Donald Trump ran in 2016 and 2020 and still today claims to be this CEO president of a business that's clearly not being run on the up and up.
The language evokes a mafia kind of organization, and I don't think you can get away from that. And this has been the kind of theme that has pervaded all the way through this trial, is all of these guys involved in the various transactions and the hush money and the repayment. Even today, Bob Costello, the witness that the defense put on and was supposed to support Trump's case, came across as a guy who was trying to cover it all up, and he was the kind of the cleanup job. And when you think about it like that, it kind of suggests that Trump had all of these guys around him to clean up what he knew was wrongdoing. And if that's the idea that the jury takes away to deliberation, then you've already done 50% of the job for the prosecution, because the prosecution only needs to show that there was a cover-up.
But like a mob boss, didn't sign his name and surrounded himself with hitmen.
I would take that theme even further. And as the prosecution, you're going to go and say, you don't like Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen's a bad actor. Michael Cohen has done some bad things. But who are you going to get to point to the worst guy? And I use this expression, or not used this term before. He's the Henry Hill. He's the Sammy the Bull. He's the one who's getting the main bad guy and going with that mob thing. Whether this is a new Teflon Don, we'll find out soon enough. But that's what you want to do. You don't want him to date your daughter. You don't want him to marry your sister. You don't want him to be your brother. But that's not what we're here about. We're here about him telling what happened and telling it truthfully today, knowing full well when he stepped in that courtroom, he was going to be ridiculed, torn down, and ripped apart. But he still came and he still told you the truth.
Barb, do you think the prosecution made their case?
Yeah, of course, the relevant decision maker here is the jury, who have been in court every single day, listening to every word of testimony and reviewing every exhibit, and then will deliberate together. So it's difficult to predict what a jury will do. But if you look at what their task was, proving that Donald Trump caused the falsification of business records for the purpose of concealing other crimes, that is, campaign finance violations, then, yeah, the evidence is all there. The pieces are all there. They brought in evidence well beyond the testimony of Michael Cohen, who, my guess is a jury will even say, we don't want, let's look at this whole case even without Michael Cohen and see if it makes sense. And I think they've got the case there even without Michael Cohen. They have got the financial records. They have got David Pecker explaining what the whole conspiracy was all about, being the eyes and ears. They've got Hope Hicks involved. So I think that the case has been made. The question will be whether the jury sees it that way and whether the government, in their view, has met its burden beyond a reasonable doubt unanimously.
Tim, this is not the first time that Donald Trump has brought up this ridiculous notion of a third term. But last month, he also told Time magazine that wasn't a consideration. What's going on here? What should we believe? I can't even believe
it. Well, I think he's trying to be...
As it came out of my mouth, I'm like, what? Oh my God. Yeah.
I think he's trying to be cute, Stephanie. I think he's trying to be funny, but it's not funny. And we've been down this road. Your viewers know this, you know this, but it's just worth saying that there was a big time in the lead up to the 2020 election where there were many of us, left's never Trumpers and journalists, who are saying we should be concerned about the fact that Donald Trump won't say that he's going to accept the results of this election if he loses. And then he did these little games about, oh, maybe I'll accept it. I'll accept it if it's good. I'll accept it if I win. And we all saw where that led. People really bought into his lies. They bought into his BS. He might have been, somewhat tongue in cheek, but they were taking him very seriously, and they ended up storming the Capitol as a result. So I think that's pretty much what's going on here. He thinks that he's in on some big joke, but unfortunately, it's really serious business.
Guess who might not accept election results? Guess who else? Marco Rubio. I want to share his appearance on Meet the Press yesterday when he was asked about this very thing.
Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter what happens, Senator?
No matter what happens? No, if it's an unfair election, I think it's going to be contested by either side.
Senator, no matter who wins.
I think you're asking the wrong person. The Democrats are the ones that have opposed every Republican victory since 2000. Every single one. It's Hillary Clinton.
No Democrat has refused to concede. Hillary Clinton conceded.
Yeah, boy. What you make of it? I will tell you, Senator Mitt Romney kind of tried to make that argument to me, like, well, Democrats haven't accepted election results. I'm like, I'm sorry, when?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Hillary conceded on election night. I mean, I wasn't so psyched about it, but Hillary conceded on election night. She gave a concession speech the next day. No Democrats were illegally organizing efforts to decertify votes and overturn the election. But what is so disturbing about it is watching Marco Rubio, who he practiced for this moment, right? He wanted to make sure he had all the examples of when Jim Clyburn stood up to object to, something in the 2004 election to impress Donald Trump, and because he wants to be the running mate. And why? I could normally understand why people want to be, why they're doing what they're doing, but why he would want to be the running mate and actually maybe even have to be Trump's vice president. Like, I don't, like, I really can't fathom.
Little Marco wants to be next to the big man, and Little Marco is Donald Trump's nickname for him, certainly not mine. Tim, something that I know caught your attention this weekend. In that speech at the NRA, Donald Trump said he wants to roll back a number of the gun provisions, the gun rules that were put in place during the Biden administration. Hugely popular ones.
Yeah, look, this is just bad politics and bad policy together. If anything, the Biden, bipartisan gun bill was probably, didn't go far enough. It was good that they achieved some things that people have been trying to do for a long time. Common sense gun reform. The gun show loophole was closed. I grew up about a mile from Columbine. I remember there was a lot of discussion around closing the gun show loophole because that's how those kids got guns 20 some odd years ago. And so it takes a long time. And so that's a good accomplishment for President Biden. But it wasn't like, that he passed some gun grabbing anti-Second Amendment bill. These are very popular bipartisan 80-90% issues. Things like making sure it's harder for kids under 21 to get guns, banning straw purchasing, make it easier to put criminals in jail if they're selling guns across state lines. Like, these are the kinds of things that basically everybody is for, except for, extreme gun rights wackos. And Donald Trump wants to repeal all of that. So I think that's horrible politics. Obviously, it's bad policy. Trump in the past, has tried to kind of play it both ways on these cultural issues. And I do think this is a big vulnerability for him this year, that on abortion, on gun rights, on immigration, he's all in with the most extreme parts of the party.
Jen, Trump is holding a rally this week in the Bronx. Yeah. The Bronx, instead of a state that he actually has a chance of winning. Is that just proof that this campaigning isn't about campaigning? It's about fundraising for him, because what's the point of spending your time and money in the Bronx?
I think, sometimes it's just not that complicated with Trump. He's distracted, right? I don't know if so he's not going to battleground states. He's focused on a New York trial. Does he think that going to the Bronx might somehow impact the jury if the jury sees a lot of support for him there? I'm not sure, but I think, he
could say, oh, well, I can't go far. He can get to PA.
You can go to Pennsylvania
really in an hour.
And a couple of weeks ago, he went to the Jersey Shore, and the press were saying, well, it's the Philadelphia media market. Or he could go to Philadelphia. It's not good that he's not actually not going to these battleground states. And depending on how the Bronx goes, it could come back with some compelling photos and compelling images. But I think this feels like this is more about the trial. This is about raising money than it is about campaigning.
Tim, you heard the polling conversation we had in that last segment. What's your take?
Yeah. I don't know. I hope they're right. I agreed with Professor Sabado's point about how the media should care more about democracy than following all the polls. But I don't know. I get a little bit PTSD. Back when I was on the other side, back when I was a Republican, Jen will remember this, in 2012, I was at the RNC during the Romney-Obama election, and pretty much everybody around me was saying the polls are skewed, the polls are bad. And I was the guy in meetings going, I don't think so. I think the polls are right. And I think we should take them seriously and adjust our strategy. We all saw the result. The polls were right. President Obama won. So, maybe the polls are wrong, but it's not just the New York Times poll. Every single poll of Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Arizona since March has had Donald Trump ahead. That's alarming to me. And I think we should take that very seriously, even if the criticisms of them are accurate.